Good morning, everybody. This week we're going to be talking about Night of the Living Dummy by R.L. Stine. There are two reasons why I wanted to talk about this. One, which is actually the most important, I wanted to talk about the third book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series this week, but to quote Casually Comics, as of time of this recording, I have not yet finished that book. So I'm sort of talking about a different book. Another one, just because I wanted to talk about Goosebumps in general, just because Goosebumps was a fun series and I liked it. So I'm digging into this book in particular. I think we all kind of know what the plot is. Basically, there are these two girls. They are sisters. They somewhat have a rivalry between them. If one does something, the other one wants to do it too. One of them finds a ventriloquist dummy. She starts practicing. The other one gets another dummy. She starts practicing. Strange things start happening. The dummies start moving, seeming to move around the house while nobody's looking, things like that. I won't give away the end. Actually, I will, because I'm gonna suggest you don't read this book. Turns out it was the sister that first started practicing with a dummy she called Slappy. Was playing a prank on her sister, and basically in the last page and a half, you discover that Slappy, the ventriloquist dummy, is actually alive and evil, and they chase it around and kill it. That's the plot in a nutshell. I'm Like I said, I'm not going to suggest you read this book because I'm going to tell you right up front, and I'm not going to wait until the end of my discussion to say this. This is not a very well written book. Some Goosebumps books are really well written. We'll talk about those, but this one just isn't. It's really bad. But anyway, so that's the plot. So let's talk about maybe what this book is about. Because one of the nice things about R.L. Stine's Goosebumps novels is that he does tend to include a little bit more subtext in them than most other young adult horror series were doing. And this one is about sibling rivalry. It's about trying to is about It's really just about sibling rivalry. There's really not much else to it. There are some other Goosebumps books. For example, Don't Go in the Basement, which is, if you're an adult reading that book, you notice that there's some subtext about marital strife. There's some very heavy, Cronenberg-esque body horror in it. But this book, not so much. Like I said, this is not the best. This is not the best Goosebumps book you will ever read, and I would not suggest starting with this book. But let's just talk about Goosebumps in general, just because what I want to do is a little bit later on this year, I'd like to read a couple other Goosebumps books and talk about them, and that'll be for like in October. I thought that would be kind of fun. So because I think anybody that was alive in the '90s, whether they were children, adults, or octogenarians, knows about Goosebumps. It was one of the most popular book series on the shelves at the time, and that was back in an era when people actually read books a lot more. And of course, there was the television series, there was the animated television series, there was the revival series that came in, like, I think the 2010s. There was the movies. There were two movies based on it. There was all kinds of merchandising. It was a very popular series. And like I said, this book is not a good one to start with, but you really shouldn't take the fact that this book wasn't all that good as a harbinger of the series as in total, because honestly, there were some of these books that were actually really good. Like I mentioned, Don't Go in the Basement. That actually, if you read that as an adult, that actually has some extra levels to it. There's other ones. I want to say werewolf skin. I think that's one that I remember as being, pretty good. I mean, it has some extra things going on under the skin of it. But I'm so I mean, I really kind of want to take this video more to prep for more of a deeper dive. I'm probably reading about four Goosebumps books for October, and just say I'm going to pick out some of the better ones. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this book, even though this book wasn't good, it's because Slappy the Dummy kind of became the mascot for Goosebumps. How that happened out of this book, I don't know. But I will say, in the other three books, I think that featured him, were actually pretty good. So I mean, you'll probably hear that name a lot. And and as such, since Slappy was the sort of the mascot of Goosebumps as the series progressed, he sort of became one of the mascots for like younger horror in the 90s and into a little bit into the 2000s as well. I mean, he has a certain, level of, of pop cultural cachet to him. And so, I think, it's perfectly fine to, discuss Slappy when you want to discuss Goosebumps. Of course, it's not particularly scary to adults, and it's not even scary to adults if you're scared of mannequins. I'm not scared of mannequins. Dolls don't scare me. Even Child's Play didn't really scare me. I didn't get interested in Child's Play until the fourth movie when it became more of a comedy than horror. Those things just don't scare me. But I mean, for people that do, I mean, it's this book will not scare them. You can give this book to a kid. Well, you shouldn't give this book to a kid, but you can give any of the Goosebumps books to kids. And one of the things I really liked about Goosebumps is the fact that they're scary enough for children, but they're campy enough for adults. And there's kind of a Venn diagram between those two things where it's safe for kids and still fun. And I think we need more of that. It's okay for kids to read, a campy little horror novel every now and then. They're not going to get scared. They're not going to lose any sleep. I mean, kids are a lot more resilient than we give them credit for. Trust me. Um, and I think these books are perfectly fine. R.L. Stine is never going to win a Nobel Prize in literature for his writing, but he's a perfectly serviceable writer. I mean, I've read some of his more adult horror novels. I don't find them that interesting, but they aren't bad. Let's put it that way. They're mid. But I mean they're not bad, and if people like them, I know a lot of people like them. They were perfectly well done. So yeah, go pick up some Goosebumps novels if you can. If you can find them in physical form, pick them up. If you can't, pick them up on a Kindle version. They're a lot of fun. They're campy. And you might enjoy some of them. Give some of them a try. Anyway, see you next week. Stay positive. Bye bye.